Hey guys, Buffer Gabe back today bringing you a video, and today I want to talk about Spec Ops, Warzone 2, and Raids. But first off, before we get into that, we're going to be covering some more items more in depth from the blog post yesterday for the everything you need to know in the launch overview for Call of Duty. We glanced over this in yesterday's video, but I want to get more in depth to specifically Spec Ops, Raids, and Warzone, and DMZ really in this video. But before we start that conversation, I will be live streaming the campaign for the early access event tomorrow, so that goes live at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So go ahead and check that out. I'll be streaming it here on YouTube, and we'll probably go live around 12:30ish or a little bit closer to 1. We'll have to see. But I will have that event up later on tonight, so you guys can go ahead and see that and get ready. Now, obviously, that'll be a spoiler warning before we get into that campaign. So if you don't want to be spoiled, watch it at a later date after you play through. I'm going to have the face cam on. I'll be discussing things as we play along. I won't be talking too much, but we'll talk about things like weapons, review probably each mission with plots, things like that, and go over everything after the fact. So I won't talk too much during the missions, but it should be a really good experience. I'm really looking forward to it. And then obviously we have a week till the full launch of the game with multiplayer, so I'll be breaking down each mission, probably going through and having just the live gameplay of each specific mission in the realism mode or difficulty, and then play through that and do a couple videos I have just reviewing and dissecting and comparing it to Sicario and other things that we've talked about leading up to the campaign. So we're looking forward to that. I'm glad campaign's getting a full week of appreciation because this is definitely going to be a really, really good campaign. I always love the Modern Warfare campaigns, and this one, based on everything we've seen, like we've said, it looks beat for beat like Sicario and Sicario 2, as well as some other things like Clear and Present Danger. Has a lot of things from those movies as far as themes and different scenes like that you can see in the trailers that are definitely straight up out of Sicario. So looking forward to that. Again, that'll be live here on YouTube tomorrow as soon as the campaign goes live at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be going live here on YouTube a little bit before that so we can get ready and jump into it right when it releases. So for today's topic, I want to discuss Spec Ops, Raids, DMZ, and Warzone 2. Now, in the article, which I'll link down below for the blog post yesterday over on CallOfDuty.com for the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 early campaign access and launch overview, everything you need to know, they go into this. So this is not only covering just early campaign, but everything leading up to the multiplayer, and then DMZ, Raids, Spec Ops, all that with the launch dates on November 16th and what to expect. And then also December 16th, I believe what they said would be the mid-season event for or the reloaded for season 1, and then obviously we have season 1 launching alongside Warzone 2 DMZ on November 16th. So jumping into it here, first off, we don't really know too much about Raids, which we'll get into that, but I want to start with Spec Ops because there's something here they touch on which I have not heard previously with any information for Modern Warfare 2, and that's being called kits is what they refer to here. So in the article over on CallOfDuty.com, again, I'll link this down below. You guys can check it out. Basically, they're saying that focusing on Spec Ops here, the evolution of this mode in Modern Warfare 2 is the evolution of what we saw in Modern Warfare 2019. So this is a co-op experience, which will initially at launch feature 3 missions on, and I believe this launches with the game next week on the 28th for the multiplayer. 3 missions at launch, all taking place in Al Mazrah, which is going to be that Warzone 2 map, which we'll discuss. So those missions are as follows. We have low profile. So infiltrate a town in the dead of night to uncover intel and evidence left behind by Alcatel before exfiltrating. Stealth is key to survival. So this mission, if it's in the dead of night, obviously this has to be a nods mission, and you're definitely getting those vibes from the Wolf's Den and the Townhouse mission in Modern Warfare 2019, where you're going in those night missions with a nod. So that's going to be a really good mission. Again, because this is Spec Ops, you're going to be able to do this with at least 1 or 2 of your friends, which is going to be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that. That should be a really good mission, having these night ops missions like this in Spec Ops. And you know they're going to be adding a lot more too, because those are the really popular missions from the Modern Warfare series. Next up at launch, we're going to have denied access. So this one, again, taking place in Al Mazrah. Multiple SAM turrets are preventing reinforcements from entering Al Mazrah. With the help of a vehicle, navigate through the winding streets of the suburb to destroy them. Then speed away and exfil in a plane to escape. So this is going to be one of those really cool type missions. Reminds me a lot of the Spec Ops mission from Modern Warfare 2019 that took place at the Verdansk airport there, where you had to infill to the airport, and then you eventually got on. There was that weapon of mass destruction on the plane. You had to get on the plane with your friends, fight through the plane, and then get that bomb, that nuclear warhead, off the plane last minute and jump out of the plane. It was an epic mission when done right. And again, I had a lot of fun covering that one on the channel because that was actually a pretty difficult one. So this one kind of reminds me of that in some ways. Really looking forward to that. And then there's one more here called Defender. So this is going to be more of a survival mode. So they're saying this is a love letter to the fans of survival modes. Again, survival mode, we've seen that in previous Modern Warfares as well. And with this one,
good to go.
And with this one, defend the observatory from increasingly difficult waves of enemies attempting to detonate bombs between each wave. Operators can spend cash to get items such as kill streaks, self-revive kits, and armor plates. So that's going to be pretty cool. Again, this is the survival type. Again, reminds me because you're buying kill streaks, weapons, things like that. It does have that zombie feel, obviously being a survival mode. So that'll be pretty cool. We're looking forward to that. And those are the 3 Spec Ops missions we'll have at launch. But getting into it a little bit more here, we have in Spec Ops, operators will have access to a backpack to store equipment. And one of 3 kits that are similar to a set of perks, field upgrades, and kill streaks in multiplayer. So these kits, you'll have your backpack, and you'll essentially have these things like perks, field upgrades, and kill streaks within your kit, which is pretty interesting. And I'm curious if kits are going to be making their way into raids or anything else like that. And it seems like they are based on what they're saying here. So at launch, you're going to have 3 kits here, that being the Assault, Medic, and Recon kits. So focus on the Assault Rifle kit focuses on increased armor with an armor box field upgrade. Later levels give you assault suit, munitions like a mini juggernaut, increased armor capacity, and free stims in your backpack. So you're going to have basically, again, kit is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to come pretty much fully loaded, and as you level up in the survival mode or in the Spec Ops mission, you'll have access to these things. The next thing here is for medic. So kit focuses on quicker revives with a revive pistol, field upgrade for ranged instant revives. Later levels include free bomb drone, similar benefits of a double time perk, and Claymore anti-tank mines included in the backpack. And then we have the recon kit. So the recon kit is focused on better equipment usage with snapshot, pulse, field upgrades to see nearby enemies. The latter levels give you the ability to automatically restock lethals and tacticals over time, the ability to carry extra equipment, and a free heartbeat sensor and spotter scope included in the backpack. So this is really cool. This, again, gives me the idea. This is definitely something I feel is going to potentially make its way to DMZ also, because the kit, they're going to be definitely adding more kits over time, I'm sure. Basically, this is how you're going to have to think about how you're going to approach with your team to some of these missions. Which kits will you and your friends use to complement each other? Again, kind of like a Rainbow Six Siege type mentality here. I'm just thinking off the top of my head as far as thought process before missions, how you guys need to play to benefit each other as a squad. So that's really cool. And these kits, what they're saying here also is that kits are leveled up by earning stars through missions and mission-related challenges, which gives you all 3 of these launch missions plenty of replayability. So you'll be able to play these over and over, and it seems like more of a sandbox experience for some of these is kind of what they're hinting at. Now, this is key here. So this is kind of going to drive this conversation. We highly recommend completing all 3 Spec Ops missions with 3 stars and have at least 1 kit leveled up to tier 5 before raids. A direct continuation of campaign are introduced to Spec Ops later in Season 1. So later in Season 1, it sounds like raids are supposed to be coming with Warzone 2 and DMZ on November 16th. But raids, it's saying, is a direct continuation of campaign, and you want to have at least one of these kits leveled up to tier 5. Now, the kits go up to 10 tiers in total, so by replaying these Spec Ops missions, you can level all these up to tier 10 before raids comes out. Now, with raids, we really don't know too much about it, other than it will be at least a 2 to 3 player co-op experience, and who knows what is going to be going on with that. We really don't have that much information to go off with raids, but the fact that they're highly recommending that you level up these kits in Spec Ops sounds to me like kits are going to play a fundamental role not only in the raids but potentially in DMZ as well. And again, with DMZ, that'll be launching on December or November 16th, along with Warzone 2. But first up, before we go there, I want to say Raids. Again, I'm curious how this is going to tie in with, it sounds like it's going to be a continuation of campaign, but how it's going to tie in with Spec Ops and DMZ. Because when we talk about DMZ and Tarkov, the connection there about how they're similar to each other, we would say we're going on raids, or we're doing raids in Tarkov to complete objectives, things like that. So the raids, to me, sound like it'll be more of an objective-based type Spec Ops mode, potentially, which is going to continue from the campaign. And that, with the 2 years of support, sounds like potentially we'll get a story-driven aspect of the raids. So moving on from there, with DMZ and Warzone 2 launching on November 16th. So I don't believe, definitely for Warzone 2, kits don't sound like they'll play a role there, but potentially in DMZ, if that connects to raids, how we discussed. We don't really know anything about DMZ or raids, really, besides what we've heard from rumors. So we'll really have to wait and see how these kits play into that. It sounds like, based on what they're saying here in this blog post, kits are going to be crucial for raids, but will they also be crucial for the DMZ mode? We really have to wait and see how that's going to play out. And again, DMZ is that Escape from Tarkov inspired extraction-based mode, which everything we've heard of, and I have multiple videos on the channel, it sounds like it's going to be basically a lighter version of Tarkov, which I'm really excited for. Now, moving to Warzone 2, again, launching alongside DMZ and what I believe is also raids on November 16th. Warzone 2, we saw a lot of Warzone 2 in the Call of Duty Next event, and that's really it. Now, there's a lot of rumors that perhaps there's some heavy changes that have been made from the Warzone 2 COD Next event to what we're going to be seeing at launch. And at the Call of Duty Next event, I personally thought Warzone 2 was very, very refreshing to see. It looked a lot like Call of Duty Blackout mixed with Warzone, and that's something I really wish we got with the original Warzone. I think at launch, Warzone itself was amazing when it first came out in 2020. That game was so much fun for the first few months, and then we just kind of got further and further away from that Battle Royale experience. It seemed like it really wasn't priority to survive and win anymore. They had to throw in a bunch of cheap things to make it a leveler playing field versus just having a competitive game that it was at launch. So you had like broken weapons with meta, and then we just got more ridiculous things as the game went on. Obviously, I think today with Caldera and things like that, obviously the game is a shell of what it used to be. So Warzone 2 at COD Next looked very refreshing. They made a lot of changes, and it looked completely different from Warzone, which I thought is really, really good. And I know there was a lot of complaints from that, but it wouldn't make sense to me personally for them to just release the same Warzone in Warzone 2 as it is today without making drastic overhauls. Obviously, Warzone was huge and caught on really, really heavily within the gaming industry and took it by storm. However, one thing that people forget is during the peak of Warzone, it was getting beat out heavily by Escape from Tarkov as far as Twitch viewers go. So they were paying attention to that for sure, and that's, I think, where DMZ is coming from here, and there's going to be a mix of that in Warzone 2, and that's what we saw at the COD Next event. Things like having to pick up a vest in order to get 3 plates at least, and store extra vests. So at base, you only can equip 2 plates until you get a vest, and then you'll have 3. So we don't know if that's going to stay or not. Things like backpacks seem like they're going to also be in Warzone 2, and backpacks definitely in DMZ. And what we see here with kits from raids and Spec Ops, maybe that's some way going to make its way into Warzone 2 as well. Things like getting med kits and things like that, heals over at the gas stations, med kits on the walls, and having to really actually loot for meds, weapons, armor, things like that. So Battle Royale, I think Blackout itself from Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was a really good Battle Royale experience. And if you look at things like PUBG, other games like that, those are true Battle Royales, and I thought Blackout did a really good job at that. Warzone obviously bridged that gap, but I think it got further and further away from the looting aspect of looting, picking up ground loot, and having to play until you get to a certain point where you could get your equipment through your weapon loadout in the original Warzone. That's kind of how it was, and then it got to the point where we can get a loadout so quickly, especially now the free loadout comes, I believe, within about a minute or two of just starting in Caldera. So they've gotten further and further away from that. Warzone 2 looks like it's going to be an actual looter, more along the lines of what we see with a competitive battle royale game like a PUBG or even what a Blackout was, also mixed with what we know and love from Warzone. So I'm personally really excited for that. And then we also have the AI present on the map as well, and we have those things called strongholds, which you can go in, and that's where the enemy AI will be, and you can engage them and get a lot of money rewards, get your loadouts there, as well as potentially buy them. So, and you can buy and upgrade your weapons at the buy stations too. So that's something we didn't see in Call of Duty Next. I know a lot of people were complaining about that you couldn't buy loadouts. You could, however, upgrade your weapons at the buy station, which nobody seemed to do, which was weird. But people were complaining you can't buy your loadouts, and they confirmed before that gameplay even rolled that you would be able to buy loadouts. You can also upgrade and buy your weapons, but it wasn't in that version. And a lot of people were upset that it wasn't in that version, and there was a huge controversy. But I think people forget that that was a pre-beta build of the game, or at least a beta build of the game that we got to play. There was not a lot of weapons there. There was not the full list of attachments. So to be able to allow players to customize your loadouts and buy your loadouts didn't seem like that was obviously the focus of that gameplay session. The focus was the gameplay mechanics, and I think a lot of people overlooked that and were just focused solely on loadouts, and they were not in that build for a reason. And it wouldn't have really made sense because the loadouts, you really couldn't build anything because there wasn't that much available. Now, at launch, obviously, we're going to have from October 28th all the way up to November 15th, 16th, when the launch of Warzone 2, DMZ, etc., to level up all our weapons, get all of our attachments, get our equipment ready to go for Warzone. It makes sense to have loadouts then, but obviously did not make sense at the COD Next event. So, personally, Warzone 2 looks awesome to me. I think it's exactly what I wanted from Warzone 1. When it started to go awry, I really was looking at Warzone, the original one, and knew what I wanted out of it. And so far, what I've saw or seen with Warzone 2 at the COD Next event and what I've heard is exactly what I want to see. So I'm really happy for that, and I think it's going to offer a lot of really good gameplay because you'll be able to get into smart firefights. It seems like the way the gameplay was at COD Next is you're going to have meaningful firefights again. And getting in firefights is going to mean something instead of just having a better weapon, broken movement, things like that, where you can get around. It seemed like in Warzone itself, original Warzone, gunfights were almost the least prioritized thing in the game. And now here, Warzone 2, it looked like looting, surviving, and gunfights all have equal weight to them. But you should feel something getting into a gunfight in these games because it is a survival game. It is a battle royale game. You're supposed to be the last one alive. So getting into firefights should be a big deal. And it seems like that's back for Warzone 2. Especially, I'm excited to see how that translates into DMZ and Raids also. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. What do you think of the kits that we're hearing about here from Spec Ops and Raids? And they're highly recommending leveling them up to at least one of them to tier 5 out of 10 before Raids. So it seems like Raids, you're going to want to have these things leveled up as much as you can. So I'll probably replay all the Spec Ops missions for over and over and over until I get these things up to 10. I'm really curious how these are going to play out and if we'll see them available for DMZ and Warzone 2. Potentially kits will be available to buy at stations, and those kits will come with maybe your custom loadout, but the kit itself will have your backpack and maybe a few things in that kit to lock you into certain play styles instead of allowing everybody to go with the quote-unquote meta of the month, really. So pros and cons is one thing that Warzone didn't do well, is having good pros and cons and balance. It seems like they're correcting course here, and everything we're hearing so far seems like they're prioritizing that going forward. So let me know your thoughts down below. What are you most excited for? And again, be sure to tune into the campaign early access event live stream tomorrow on Thursday, October 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be going live slightly before that, and we'll get ready and experience this campaign together. I'm really excited. I cannot wait to play through this. It's going to be a really good campaign. We're going to have a good time. So until next time, Buffner Gaming, out.